Hello and welcome. This is Rooflemonger, my friends. This is the visual guide for the big Season 2 patch of Guilty Gear Strive. So we have lots of character changes for sure, but perhaps even more importantly, we have a lot of universal system changes. So in this video, I'm going to be going over all the big changes in this patch. Now, some small things that are just kind of hard to show off, like bug fixes or like tiny hitbox, hurtbox changes, I'm not going to bother showing you that. I'm going to be showing you the important stuff. So I'm going to cover every character for the important stuff, so please click to whatever timestamp makes sense for you. And more importantly, make sure to check the universal changes, because the universal changes are the big changes in this patch. So I'm going to go over everything, check the timestamps, and that said, let's start with those universal changes. So now let's talk the universal changes. So one of the big ones here off the bat is Roman cancels. So Roman cancels do not take all your meter right away. It actually drains. It's a very quick drain, yes, but here's the benefit. So let's say I just blew Roman cancel forward, right? Okay, my meter's gone, whatever. But if I were to Roman cancel and then quick cancel that with a kick, you can see here, I still have some of the meter left. Most of it's gone. But right before it drains out, it preserves what's left of the meter, right? So you save just a little bit of meter when you do quick cancels now. So that's really good, and it incentivizes you to do more quick cancel combos. Another very big universal change is everyone, except for Nagoriyuki and Potemkin, can now dash cancel their stand kicks and their close slash attacks. So everyone gets to do this. So in and of itself, it's good for like gimmicks and potentially, counter hit combos. Like say Goldlewis, counter hit close slash, dash cancel, and it's a natural combo into crouch light. So that, could open up new stuff, right? So that's good. I'm using Goldlewis as an example because he's the big slow boy, right? So for more mobility for him, it's great. And more mobility for the rest of the cast, that's great. Also, here's the thing. They don't tell you this in the manual, right? But you can cancel the start of runs for all characters that can dash cancel their normals here into a special move. So say for Goldlewis, once again, we'll do close slash into the dash cancel. So you can see there, I just did a mini dash and then went into my Behemoth Typhoon. You got to be pretty quick, right? This is not free, but it is doable. So it's an extra layer of mechanical difficulty, I guess you could say. But do whatever your dash cancelable move is, cancel into the dash, and then you can cancel that dash into a special move to move forward while you're doing it. Every character can do this. It's going to be more useful or less useful depending on the character, but dash canceling is going to add a whole new layer to the game. Now here's another major universal change, is how counter hits work. So counters, big part of the game, right? Everyone knows the meme of the big counter across the screen. That's huge. And now counters, well, there's a new member of the family, as lights now join the counter family. So lights get the time stop effect just like slashes do and heavy slashes do. Now obviously, jab counter hit's not quite as impressive as this, right? You're not getting the same amount of time stop, but you are getting time stop. And what does this mean? This is actually a huge deal for a lot of characters, because you get all new combos, all new potential, all new pressure, all new everything. Let's give you a basic example. So crouch kick, right? And universally, pretty much, people's crouch kicks have less pushback. So it allows stuff like this. Okay, I'm on your face and you're going to wake up match something, crouch kick, stuff you out, right? And now since it has a time stop effect, when you know it right there, that's a natural combo now. Crouch kick, counter hit, into stand close slash. And of course from there, I can get like whatever combos and just have a lot of fun, right? So you get tons of new stuff. Let's give you a quick example here. Soul, classic stand kick, right? Everyone hates this button, but it gets that counter hit effect. So now it can do stuff like this. Go directly into Gunflame because of that time stop effect, right? That slowdown. This would never, ever, like in a million years happen, but now it totally can. Same idea. Let's use Kai, right? He just used a stand jab, for example, right? And we can hit confirm now because of that time stop. Oh, my stand jab connected? Then I can just, okay, I'll go into like a stun edge or something, right? And it's a natural combo. When normally, this is not a combo at all. Like, it would not be possible. But with our new improved counter hits with lights, then yes, this absolutely can be a combo. And everything counter hits now. Like I'm talking crouching, standing, it doesn't matter, jumping even. All of it has counter hit properties and all can have the counter hit slowdown. So you can get new combos, new pressure, new everything. You can be really inventive. If you got a button you like to spam that's like a, you know, quick kick or punch or whatever, investigate your character because you can get a lot more than you used to do. Once again, just like a quick kick into Gunflame is now a combo. And if that's a natural combo, like the world's your oyster, you can get a lot going on here. This is absolutely one of the biggest changes. And the fact that like you can do, you know, like proper link combos now with the counter hit time stop off like a crouch punch or crouch kick or whatever. This is all just a really, really big deal. I just want to hammer that home. Now, here's another very big one going back to Roman cancels. When you cancel a Roman cancel, which I know is weird, I know, sorry. But when you cancel a Roman cancel, like whatever move now, it now has a slowdown effect. So if you do like blue Roman cancel or whatever, like, okay, you have the clock, right? But now basically if you cancel out the clock, as it were, you won't see it, but basically its effect is applied to the first hit. So let's take something like crouch kick. Now we talked about the counter hit stuff, right? This isn't that. Crouch kick obviously doesn't go into crouch heavy slash for me. Sure enough, right? However, if we quick cancel here, look at that. You see that, just hit stop effect there? That Kai's kind of frozen in that kick for some time, right? And now, that is a natural combo now, right? So that's really strong. So whenever you do a quick Roman cancel, you cancel out the beginning of the Roman cancel into a normal or whatever, you now have a significant more amount of time stop to it, like hit stop, whatever you want to call it, right? And it allows for stuff that's not normally possible, like that. And then you can get combos that aren't normally possible. Much the same here. She has the overhead, right? And it's a very quick overhead. It doesn't like lead to anything. Like, look at this, you know? I couldn't even connect with my punch if I want to. I'm too far away. However, look at that. 2-hit combo. Wouldn't you know it? Because now that additional time stop effect has slowed them down enough to keep them in range, and now I can connect from there, right? And then go into whatever given combo. So anything that's tricky, this is going to be a very big deal. Like, I'm going to show you a mix-up now May can do. This used to be like a Potemkin style mix-up with a Garuda Impact, right? Because it was plus $1 billion. And now, thanks to these changes, this is available to someone like May. All you got to do is make them block a plus normal. So May close slash, that's plus on block. And then wait for it to end, because you don't want a purple Roman cancel it. You want a blue Roman cancel, because that's the better one. And then you can go for a low into a combo, or you can go into an overhead into a combo, right? So now a character like May, who has the command overhead, this leads to like 50-50s on block. And due to the nature of this being plus on block, close slash, right? That means they're locked in. Like the Roman cancel holds them in place. She has the advantage. There's no possible way to really get out of this. So this leads to a lot more pressure options, mix, whatever have you, for characters that never necessarily had them before. So the change is very, very good. And like play around with your character, see what you can get, because this is going to lead to a lot. So one change here is pretty much every character, they have less pushback on air normals. So you can get like multiple jabs or whatever in a row that you couldn't get before pre-patch, just like, you know, older Guilty Gears. And more importantly, since there's less pushback, that means for the most part, you should be able to get new air routes, new just combo ability. If you catch a straight hit, maybe you'll get a follow-up you couldn't get before. This will change, and it'll be more important and less important character to character. But for the most part, this means more freedom for air routes, more expression for air routes. That is a good thing. Okay, so now let's talk Soul. So Soul, he lost a couple things. I'm not gonna lie to you, right? Like stand kick into forward slash command normal is no longer a natural combo. Now, I know you're already mad, but it's not the end of the world. Keep in mind, on counter hit, it still is, and on counter hit, he gets lost to things that were never possible before either, right? So it's still a really good button, and it gains a lot more on counter hit now than some other characters do for sure. But yeah, so that one part definitely is a nerf. Now, how about a big buff though? So Night Raid Vortex, big slide under and pop up, right? If you do the charged version now, it launches so much higher than it did before and allows for things that were just strictly never possible before. How about this? So it goes into crouch heavy slash now. If you look at this video here, you notice pre-patch, like you could connect, but they'd scrape off the ground, right? Now it goes into it directly and you can go into like whatever combos you want from there. So that is a pretty sizable buff that he's going to get so much more damage now off a charged Night Raid Vortex. There's a few other things like forward S, stand S. They both do a few points less of damage. Like I think before stand S used to do 35, now does 29. And like, yeah, that sucks, I guess. But Soul's not exactly hurting for damage, so that's not the end of the world. It just normalizes him a little bit. Now, some other buffs like his sweep. His sweep hits from so much further away. Like, look at this. Like, he's not even actually connecting, and this move still goes off, right? So, sweep is going to be a lot more valuable tool, especially because it's already one of the best low-profile moves in the game, because he's, like, might as well be lying with his back on the ground. He's so low down, right? So, getting a fairly significant range buff from the sweep, that is good. He's got some other small normalization stuff. In the end, he'll do a little bit less damage, and maybe some, you know, of the more abusable strings he had before aren't guaranteed now, but he can still get them, and he can get better stuff with counter hits. But overall, I think Soul's still in a pretty decent place. He's still a good character. Now, Kai's got a bunch. Forward and kick command normal is now, as advertised, special cancelable. So that's really good. Jump dust now launches the enemy as advertised, and you can dash cancel that launch into air combos. And close slash, this is jump cancelable. It can go right into jump dust, and of course from that you can follow up as well. And after doing it, you can jump again on top of just, you know, being able to air dash and all that. So there's going to be a lot of inventive possible routes with this now. This definitely ups his offense a fair bit. Now there is a nerf. So shock state now ends when Kai takes damage, but I think that's very fair. Like a lot of debuffs in this game, and all fighting games, if you get hit, you lose the debuff, right? So that just kind of brings him in line with everyone else. Also a change to stun edge here. The usage restriction is gone, meaning the second that the stun edge has gone off the screen, you can just basically go for another one. So effectively, I am much less likely to get like an errant stand slash than I was before. So before, like, it was just, I guess you call it a little bit of lag time. So now, as long as you recovered, you can just spam them, like, frame perfectly. So that helps his zoning. Also, he recovers a bit quicker on his air stun edges. So effectively, his entire projectile package is just a little bit better. And yes, Dragon install. So it got buffed again. So he now moves a fair bit faster. So here's full screen run compared to the old full screen run. And it's not that much quicker, honestly. But here's one of the things, you know, it's not as apparent on the patch notes. And when you see it in reality, it's a bigger deal. It says decreased recovery. Well, okay, decreased recovery, whatever. So it's a little quicker. But here's the real deal. The move is now plus on block. See that right there? My Kai jumps before the other Kai, meaning I have the advantage. So the move, the activation being plus on block, that's actually a much bigger deal. So like if you're pressuring someone, you can do the explosion now, you can do the install, and you're plus. It's still your turn effectively, right? If you hit a button, they hit a button, you're going to win out because you're going first. So a little bit of a speed boost, making it plus on block now. Hopefully these are the changes that it needs for people to finally start using it. Because it gets buffed patch after patch after patch and no one still uses it, so maybe this is the one. Dire Clat, that's of course to go back and slash. Should be just a little bit safer to on block to use, so you'll die a little bit less, that's good. Overall, I think Kai's doing all right. Like, especially the jump just change might be a major deal for him. Okay, for May. Now I know a lot of people are going to doom and gloom, but to that I say please check earlier in the video to some of the Roman cancel stuff, because May does benefit a bit more than the average character on that end, because I use her as an example. But for the actual character changes, like, okay, stand punch is faster, that's good, but down forward kick is no longer a true hard knockdown, that's bad. All the dolphins, so here's regular slash dolphin. All the dolphins now, if you hold them, this is the horizontal ones, they go further, as you can see right there. That's like an extra 25% or so speed. Heavy slash version, You can see it goes about that distance. And if we do the held version, it goes almost full screen. So that's good. But dolphins do less damage. That's bad. And other things like, yeah, crouch, heavy slash, it doesn't launch as high. So as a character, like the character specific changes, for the most part, they don't favor me. Like, it's basically a nerf. But once again, stuff like the counter hit changes, because she has like a ridiculous range stand kick. You can benefit from counter hits from there, right? She gets more from the universal changes, but the character specific changes definitely are in her favor, sadly. Now this guy, Axl's doing good. Just like little things like the crouch punch buff. If you saw the previous patch video, you would know the hitbox of it. Like, it was so poor. Well, it was still good range, but like you could like clip through the enemy a good degree before it actually would hit, right? And now, like, it exactly matches the animation. So that means it extends the effective range of the move by like a good 15%, maybe 20%. So that's big. This is a good poke, and now it's devastatingly even better than it was before. Very big. Now, also speaking of very big, 6P launches. Look at that. That's crazy. And when you know it launches people directly into a lot of your moves with like sour spots. So interesting change. People who are proper Axl mains can probably find some real devastating with stuff with this here, but just the fact that it launches the enemy at all, very big. Forward kick, this guy here, now wall bounces people. So say I hit you with rainwater in the corner, right? So I can rainwater and then do kick, and I can cancel the command normal. And now, bounces. See that? So I'm hardly no Axl like main, right? But like just little things like this, that's interesting, right? Like you get a little bit of hit from it. It just, the fact that it moves you forward at all, I'm sure you can get much better stuff than what I just showed you, but it moves them forward at all with the wall bounce means they're close enough to be hit by a lot new things, so this should definitely up his corner combo potential. Stuff like his unblockable. So the unblockable can now work in combos. So here, we got an example. Now, see, it's not exactly a lot of damage, right? Because they're airborne, but it does actually connect. And if used in a more grounded way, so let's say close heavy slash into it, see, it bounces the enemy, right? And we can do something like this because it leaves them in a hard knockdown state, so we can OTG them with any given normal. So it's not quite the full animation like some might have hoped for, but still, it's very interesting, and it's a lot better than not being possible to hit at all, right? Air Snail now is faster, and see here, it causes this giant bounce. I'll leave the Axl Lords to figure out the implications, but a big old bounce, faster startup is definitely going to work out in his favor. And finally, an input change. So Axl Bomber is now just quarter circle forward in the air and heavy slash. Before it used to be a dragon punch motion, right? And a big part of Axl Bomber is just doing it very low to the ground. So before we had to do the dragon punch motion, so forward, down, down, forward, then like up, forward, and heavy slash. And for some people that was a little difficult. Now all you have to do is just the quarter circle forward motion here, and then just end in up, forward. And you get the easiest, lowest to the ground possible Axl Bombers ever. So if you didn't struggle before, then it's not really a big deal. But for people who did struggle, like low to the ground Axl Bomber is kind of a big deal. And now it's as easy as it's ever been. You can do it a pixel off the ground. It's great. So overall, Axl's doing pretty all right. Now Chipp. Chipp, actually for the most part, mostly benefits from a lot of the universal changes. He'll definitely benefit a lot from like new air combo stuff because of how blowback works on aerial normals. And sadly, I'm not a Chipp player, so I don't know all the combo routes to show that off right now, but he'll definitely benefit from the universal stuff. Now, one of the biggest, if not the biggest change here is the overhead off the Rekka. Because, well, you saw it right there, right? It no longer has the bounce. What it is, though, is a hell of a lot faster than it was before. Like, way faster. And it is also safer on block. Not fully safe. A lot of characters can still, like, jab punish it, but a hell of a lot safer than it was. So some people you're going to like this, some people you're not, right? Because before it had the big bounce and you can get like a bit of a follow-up from it. And now, like, technically, you know, there is a bounce, like, to the point where, like, you can get like a Roman cancel from it, right? But normal combos without meter, not so much. But it's much more unreactable, basically. Like, it's so much faster than it used to be by a wild margin. So if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. And that's about it. Some things they say, like the alpha blades in the air, the diagonals, travel much further than before, and maybe just like a little bit, but honestly, it's not that noticeable to me. Once again, he greatly benefits from a lot of the universal changes, counter hits, because, you know, he's got a 3-framer, right? So counter hit changes are big for him. Air changes are big for him. It's more the universal stuff he's going to benefit from. Now, Potemkin. So there's some give and some take here, but there's one monstrously big change. Let's start with the small stuff. I know it's harder to show you the hitbox, hurtbox stuff, but a lot of his normals, like stand kick, crouch slash, forward heavy punch, all that kind of stuff, they all have reduced hurt boxes, meaning basically he's more likely to win in trade situations because you're less likely to hit him at the tip of his hitbox. That's good. Stuff like forward heavy punch on counter hit, you can no longer tech roll it. It is a true hard knockdown now. That's good. Also, Hammerfall now has a more forward maximum distance, so he'll travel further along, which is good for situations like that especially. Now, a situation that is not as good is Mega Fists. Very important to him, especially back Mega Fist is one of his best defensive tools. Do less damage. And also, Garuda Impact does less damage. Now, you can still do your combos, right? Like, it's still natural combo into Potemkin Buster that exists, but it's not quite 50% anymore. But here's the big change. So, Gigantic High, otherwise we call it the Aegis Reflector, right? So that move, two things. One, it lost its strike invincibility. It's still throw vulnerable, but lost its strike invincibility. And we'll talk about that in a second because there's a way to get around it. But it lost that, which is, you know, not as good as a defensive tool, sure. But here's the thing. Before, if you did it close, it would do like the one big hit and fling you away, right? So now it does the one big hit and then it still comes out. No matter what, regardless of your distance, the shield will always come out. And for his offense and mix, this is a very, very, very big deal. Let me give you a quick example. Say I go close slash, right? And I go close slash into Aegis. Cool, it connected. And like, I'll get whatever baby combo. I'm sure you can get way more advanced, right? But for now, that's a good combo. And it still does over 50%. So that stuff is all right? So before, if you did that, you would just get the first hit of the Aegis and it would fling away nothing else. Now you get full combos. But now let's get a little more advanced, right? What if they choose to block? So if you choose to block, okay, you blocked, but to what avail, right? Because you're still getting that thing there. And the bot's set to mash, right? So it's a true gapless thing. There's no possible way to get out of this. Because even at him with fastest smash, it's not happening. And you can do this off a lot of things, like shoulder as well. Like, it doesn't really matter. There's a lot of ways to make this gapless. And while they're forced to block, well, now we can get some mix-ups in, can't we? Okay, here we go. And you know what? I feel like going low today. Gotcha. All right, and once again, this is a baby example, but still, the damage is respectable for a mix that you can't avoid, right? Okay, and say screw it. Today, I feel like going overhead. And keep in mind, Potemkin has like the longest range uncharged dust in the game, I think. Off the top of my head anyways. And that's a good chunk of damage, right? And once again, it's unoptimized. So now how this works is this. You block anything, Aegis, and now gets 50-50. And yes, I'm very aware uncharged dust is a little bit faster, or rather a little bit slower than like something like the sweep. And you could technically fuzzy block it, but no. One, you're lying, you're not. Don't give me that sass. And two, you could just delay the sweep. You're not reacting to either of these, right? You're just guessing. Like, this is 20 frames, which is borderline unreactable anyways, and this is even faster. So basically, that's your mix. Potemkin now, any button into Aegis is a 50-50. And since Aegis comes out always now, no matter what, no matter how close you are, this also means your combo potential with Aegis is kind of going up just a little bit here, as you can see. So, lost a little bit of damage. Sucks. But gain some mix-up potential, gain more offense potential with Aegis. So, overall, you'll take it. I think it's kind of a net positive. Like it sucks losing some damage off certain things that are like important to him for sure, right? But them's the breaks, and it's not that big of a damage nerf. And gaining a lot more utility off Aegis, I think is worth it. No. I told you I'd tell you how to get around losing the invincibility, right? So, Heavenly Potemkin Buster is invincible, proper invincible. And if you do Heavenly Buster and cancel out immediately into Roman Cancel, you will retain the invincibility, still only burn 50% bar, and that's your way out. As you see right there, it clear as day went completely through me. I got my invincibility. The timing's rough, and you don't have a large invincibility window, so if you do it too early, you will still get smacked. But It is a defensive option he has, so keep it in mind. So if you want invincibility on Wake Up, that's the way to do it now. So Potemkin, interesting changes to say the least. Now, Faust got all sorts of fun things. 6P launches a little bit higher, but still. Stand Kick has a better hitbox. Crouch Kick has faster startup, that's great. Stand S has faster recovery. It actually feels mildly noticeable too, like it's really good. Crouch S is a launcher now. So you can launch people, that's crazy. Like, I'm not a Faust player myself, so I don't know all the implications of it, but the fact that it didn't launch before and now it does, I know is definitely a strict buff. Forward Heavy Slash has a stagger effect now. That's also really, really, really good. Not the least of which it means since it's a stagger effect and you're allowed to throw people in a stagger, that means stuff like that's an actual natural combo now. So that's really cool. I dig that. The control for Mix is much more substantial now. Once again, not as a Faust player, I can't give you a lot of the nuance, but it definitely feels quite a bit different than it was before. I believe it'll probably allow for a lot more like left-right mix potential than it currently did in the Season 1 of Guilty Gear Strive. The Afro Explosion, part where it explodes, is now a guard crush, meaning you no longer get any throw invincibility after you recover from the frames, right? So Grappler Faust is definitely getting some nice buffs here. Meteor Item Toss now bounces the enemy, which is great, because now if you see, like, you know, oh, I got a bounce, cool, combo time, right? So Meteor was kind of already the best item, and by, like, you know, a fair bit, but now it ups the combo build. Like, that's just great. That's just a good buff to an already great item. Mini Faust now hits immediately. You can see here when he has his little fit, right? The little fit, before he would have the little fit and then he would attack. The little fit now has a hitbox and does damage too. So this makes this like way better, way better. The fact that he goes effectively active much faster than he did before. The first hit of Love, the Bag Bomb, now does damage. Before, it would just hit and do no damage, and the second hit would do damage. Now both hits do damage, upping the effective damage of the move, which is great because it's one of his better moves, right? So just more damage, that's great. Like, everything is great for Faust. He's living his good life. So Millia, one of the more just pronounced changes off the bat, Jump D is a launcher now. And not only is it a launcher, well, you can dash cancel it and do like whatever air combos. I'm not a Millia player, I'm sorry. Go check out Lord Knight. I'm sure he'll set you straight on like Millia combos for this. But yeah, before if you just did jump D on someone, like it bonk, I'm sure, and that was it. But now it's a launcher and you get potential combo potential from it. That is really good. Stuff like Crouch P is now faster startup, also really good. Stand S, also faster startup, that's really good. And better hitbox as well. Like, it would simply not hit from this range before. Like, I can even step a little bit back from the round start and it can connect, right? So the range on this is substantially buffed. Like, Millia did not necessarily have good grounded neutral before. That is not how she won the game, right? And now, I'm not going to say she's going to win off this, right? But at least she can compete. At least she can get a hit in, right? So stand slash buff is also fairly significant. Millia, more than most, is going to benefit from like all these air changes. I don't know the character. I don't know how to make combos for her, so take my word for it, I guess. I just feel like she's going to benefit more from just being able to do more air combo stuff. Now, the ground throw did get nerfed. She has more recovery, right? But there's a reason for that, and it's because all the tops got buffed. So heavy top is the big one, right? And here's the thing. Before, if she got tapped at all, hit or block, it would go away. But now, she actually can still keep the top going while she's blocking the attacks. However, now the discs will still remain out even while she's still blocking. Right there. See, Kai tried to get it out. In Season 1, if he forced her to block at all, the tandem top would just go away. However, now, not so much. If Millia blocks, then if you're doing anything, you're just going to get bopped, right? So the pressure is really good here. And on top of that, she recovers quicker during all versions of the top as well, right? So her pressure in this way is just getting better. Now Capel. So Capel has a better hitbox. Now, it's not a magic better hitbox, right? Like right there, I feel like that would have missed before. So now Like, it'll hit in situations it wouldn't have hit before, but not magically. So, like, it's just a bit bigger. And one of the things here, it says it's affected by momentum now. Now, here's the thing. So, as stands, like, okay, that's the base version, just neutral jumping. But if I dash and do it, I don't feel like it's that much further. So, it's affected by momentum. I don't think it's by a great degree. Like right there, dash into BRC, forward into cancel, didn't fling me across the screen like it does with some other characters that have the momentum property, right? Other people, like Goldlewis, would have went corner to corner. So I don't think it affects it that much, but I guess to some small degree. But still, good. Basically, Millia is a little bit better on the ground, and her mix-up's just gonna be better. And that's how she wins games, so good for Millia. So Zato, first thing here, I have a direct comparison with the previous season here. The Eddy gauge. So Eddy gauge, when Eddy's just out and about, as you can see, depletes much slower. So if you're not actively using Eddy for anything, you can just leave him do his thing for just a little bit more. Well, a lot bit more actually, because the drain rate on Eddy is, it's just so much more forgiving than it was before. Before it would drain very fast. Now you can just let him rock for a good while. You don't have to feel like you have to hit a button immediately or lose him, right? So that is definitely a pretty sizable buff for Zato. Also in the buff department, so forward heavy slash. This guy here, the leap. So what's different there is it affects your air momentum differently now. So before you do this, like air dash and get your kick in, right? That's an overhead. And then, you can go low or whatever, right? But now you can do that and then also go for dust. Before you just hit the ground, you couldn't get dust. The air dust is an overhead. So in this situation, you now have to guess. And I'm going to go overhead low or overhead overhead. Now, granted, you don't get a lot in and of itself, right? But this is a really strong target for like Roman cancels and the whatever combo. So more mix, basically. And little things like his drills, they only count as one hit as far as combo scaling goes now versus 4 separate hits. So it does a little bit less damage for a singular hit now, but if you get all the hits in, you do more overall damage. So that's a buff. And leap, well, leap does less damage and the hurt box is a little worse because it's really good. Like, come on, like it dominates neutral, right? So gives people just a little bit more chance to try to jab it out before they get blown up. But yeah, overall, and of course, he benefits from a lot of the air changes and all that kind of stuff. Overall, he's doing pretty good. So for Ramlethal, let's start with the buffs, shall we? So Daro, this guy here, moves further. Not a lot further, but enough to matter in some certain situations. So how about this situation here? So close slash dust, right? It's a standard enough combo for her. Oh, I got it, cool. Oh, wait, what's this? I got more follow-up. Here's how this looks like pre-patch. Pre-patch, well, this completely whiffs. But now, thanks to it moving further, this means she gets close slash and go into whatever she wants to go from there. So that's sizable. That actually ups some of her combo route potential and her damage. Far S, far heavy slash allegedly have tinier upper hitboxes. In my testing, I don't know, dude. It says it on the patch. I'm sure it's like 1 pixel lower. So that's technically a nerf. Now, the sword toss nerf. So basically the swords materialize just a little bit later than they do, which means in situations where she's on top of you, like say close S sword toss, you can now beat her out. Since the sword doesn't touch the wall yet, it just immediately goes to the ground. But it's not foolproof. I know some of you guys are jumping for joy. It's not foolproof, because if she even goes for something as simple as this, yeah, you're going to be out of range. Like 99% of characters are going to be out of range. So depending on her block string, you can 6p out of it now. Depending on the block string. Some block strings, yes. Some other block strings, no. So if you try, like in that situation, you'll just get hit. But still, it brings her down to earth just a little bit. She has to do stuff a little bit differently. The same old Ramlethal autopilot doesn't always work. Now keep in mind here too, like certain strings with more frame advantage, like you can't even get 6p off there because you're doing crouch heavy slash, right? But at the very least, close slash, sword toss, you can get out of that now. And on a personal note, because on this channel I'm a fan of Goldlewis, right? I'm a fan of all the big boys. Goldlewis, since the explosion now is just a little bit less, Goldlewis can actually jump out of the explosion now. He could not before. He actually could not before. he had to super jump. That was his only possible way out. If he did a regular jump, he would still get hit. So that's a Goldlewis only change, but I'm happy they finally did it. But don't worry, we got more Ramlethal buffs to talk about. So, cortical back and slash in the air, the double air slash here, right? They changed how the movement works in the game. So now if you like tiger knee it, like as you can see here, like before she'd like float up and you know, the hits might miss or whatever. Now, not so much. And you can like tiger knee it upwards, forward, or whatever, and just have like a giant wall of hitboxes. So yeah, that's really, really good. That's really, really good. So that's a good buff. So yeah, in the end, like, okay, sword toss is allegedly easier to deal with in the corner, right? And she lost a couple things, like dash after Rekka is a little bit slower, like that kind of stuff. But Ramlethal is still a threat, is what I'm trying to tell you. Don't let anyone tell you differently. She's still gonna be one of the better characters in the game in the end. So Leo, there are some nerfs, there are some buffs. So stand kick in and of itself has a little bit more recovery. So less, you know, the old like, what am I gonna do? Am I gonna do a follow-up or, you know, just throw you or whatever? A little bit more recovery. Now, some things, you know, close S, crouch S have less recovery, so those are buffs. And his guard stance here, the one where you hold the button and does like the block, and now basically has a much smaller window for him to actually be hit out of the attack when he's doing it. So it's actually just stronger as a defensive move and as a reactive move, so that's a buff. Now here's probably the big nerf, the sweep. The sweep now has more recovery, meaning it is less safe on block. And it's already mostly, well, depending on your spacing, it's unsafe on block. And most of the spacing you want to use it at, well, like, it was safe, so whatever, right? Now, however, unless you have literally perfect spacing, a lot of people can jab it out. Now, if you do have perfect spacing, you're safe. So that's still good. But if you're even a little bit sloppy with it, you'll at least get tagged with like a jab or something, right? So keep that in mind. But other things, like it's more affected by dash momentum. Like, look at that. You can just fling yourself across the screen with this crap now, right? That's crazy. And it now launches people higher on counter hit. So it got some buffs too. Like, yeah, it's a very annoying move and it got a nerf, but it also got some buffs. His flash kick got a little bit more startup. It's still probably the best reversal in the game, so like whatever. Don't spare me your tears, Leo players. I'm not going to feel for you on this one. Now here's the big one. So the cross up, right? So the cross up now works in the corner. You can cross people up in the corner. You couldn't before. Like he would definitely stay same side before. So now there's probably going to be like specific ranges like, oh, am I going to hit you same side or am I going to hit you cross up? So have fun with that, I guess. Also in combo situations, this does mean you can prevent yourself from breaking the wall, go into stance and then bully him with the stance, right? So sometimes you just don't want the wall break and this will let Leo keep them in the stage as it stands and then go into gorilla mode. So that is a buff. Now what is a nerf is turbulence can now be rolled out of. Before it was a true hard knockdown, so if you Leo hit you and like you would just be in stance directly on top of you in your face waiting for you to wake up. Now the enemy can get a little bit of distance. You can still follow him, like honestly, like it's not that bad, but Leo can no longer just be directly on top of you. So it's still advantageous, sure, but not as advantageous as it was. Also, while in stance, stand kick here also gains the benefit of counter hit timing for lights. So that's good. That's fun. Overall, though, Leo's still a very strong character. Like, don't confuse it. He might be a little weaker than he was before, but in the end, he's still got the big toolbox. He still has all of his options. What makes Leo Leo is still quite good. Ooh, boy, Nagoriyuki. He's got some changes. So Fukyo, that's the teleport. Fukyo, you can now cancel the end of it to other moves, and it retains the momentum. So stuff like a Fukyo into the Beyblade from full screen, now that's a full screen attack now, effectively. So have a looky this. This is the current patch, obviously. This is Season 2. Okay, that hit. And now look at that in Season 1. Oh, okay, doesn't hit at all, does it, right? So yeah, his ability to throw himself across the screen definitely gone up. Also, during that point here, the blood gauge takes a little bit longer to get where it's going. So in situations where you're about to get berserk, you can toss in maybe an extra move beforehand. So that's also, in my opinion, to his benefit. Now, here's the other thing too. So his slashes now benefit from the blood gauge. Specifically, they get faster and do more chip damage. They maintain the same range. It's not quite like the heavies where like they get more or less range depending how much blood you have. The range is the same, which is great because crouch slash is one of the best normals in the game. Let's call it for what it is, right? So now the more blood you have, well, it gets faster and does more chip damage. Like you can see here, Kai is taking a fair bit of chip here off just a baby normal. If he has no blood at all, the chip is significantly less. So this is the move he uses all the time anyways. And at high blood, he's going to counter hit you with it more because it's going to be faster startup and deal more chip damage. So that's just lovely. Now here's a nerf. Crouch heavy slash. Like the vertical part of it is still the same, but it hits a much less low to the ground, which is great. Because like right there, that absolutely would hit Goldlewis before, right? Goldlewis and Potemkin, they couldn't deal with this move. They were too big. They were too fat. Now they stand at least a bit of a chance. They can actually crouch and not lose to the anti-air move. So his uppercut, the second hit, says cause a bit of a ground bounce now. So in and of itself, it doesn't look like much, but it just makes combo routes just much more easier to obtain. Also, his super, when you do the far version and only connect with the tip and don't get a cinematic, when you hit him, it goes up high and it ground bounces after the fact. So if you're looking for like whatever given combo now the fact that it ground bounces, it should make your life just a little bit easier in that regard. I'm no Nagoriyuki pro myself, so I don't know all the specifics you can go for, but it should be to your benefit. So Nagoriyuki, already, pretty good character. Now definitely a better character after this patch. So Giovanna, off the bat here, once you're at 50% or more tension and get your little buffs, all your normals do chip damage now. Like even stand light kick does chip damage. That's crazy. So like it's not going to amount to a lot over the course of the match. Like you're not Goldlewis or nothing, right? But the fact that you get chip damage now is pretty substantial. That's good. Now her mix. So her flip over kick is now controllable. So say I'm right in your face, right? Oh, okay, yeah, it's always going to be cross up. Except, well, that wasn't a cross up. Now was it? So if you hold forward or back, you will now change the trajectory of it, right? So in a situation like this, okay, you get the mix, but if you hold back, well, then you stay same side. So you're 50-50, that's unseeable. That is, like, you cannot process which side it's going to hit on. Like, that, you are never going to block this correctly anymore ever again. Simple as that. But there is a price to pay. And that is this. So let's look at the old jump test. I see the enemy Giovanna jump first. So it is negative on block now. It used to be plus on block. It is negative on block now. So that's the penalty to pay. Like, it is now a fully unseeable mix-up. You will never, ever correctly block this ever again. You'll just guess. And sometimes you might be lucky and guess correctly, right? But if you do guess correctly now, it is your turn. It is not Giovanna's turn now. That's the payoff for it. Giovanna's dashes are now much more easy to manipulate by holding directions. So regular dash is still regular dash. But if you do regular dash and hold back, as you can see here, like kind of cancels it out immediately. And if you do regular dash while holding forward, then you'll get just a bit more range as well. So her ability to traverse the stage is going up. And Travajo, that is her cannon drill, now actually can hit from further away and has more active frames. So in the end, she got a bit, she lost a bit, right? She's going to be faster now thanks to better dashes. Her mix-up is better, but if you get blocked, then the mix-up is worse, right? So just make sure you actually hit the enemy instead. But yeah, so in the end, she's still a solid character in my opinion. I almost want to skip this section because Anji's one of the worst characters in the game, and he's worse. They nerfed him. Let's start with the good stuff before we get to the bad stuff. Hey, stand slash is better. That's awesome, right? It's like a frame faster or something. That's cool. So it's crouch slash, like a frame faster. That's awesome. That's great, right? That's good. The overhead doesn't bounce people anymore. You don't get combos from anymore. That kind of sucks. Like, yeah, it's faster, I guess, but like the fact that you don't get a lot of damage from it anymore makes it just kind of whatevs. And like, oh man, well, if you cripple the move that bad, like it's got to be like safe on block or something. Well, not so much. It says it has less recovery, but not enough that you're not going to get your head caved in for trying it, right? So that's just basically way worse. Ko no longer has hard knockdown, which means butterfly setup is dead. Before it gave you a really good butterfly setup. Now, like you can still do it. Like you can still do butterfly at least, but like before they had to wake up directly into it. Now, whatever, they can get around it for free. Butterfly in the corner tries to stay in the corner, but like, you know, if you do it off a throw, you ain't getting much. Like they'll be affected by the blue glow, I guess, more now, which I'm sure is demoralizing in and of its own way, but you know, not so good there. Charge Fusion used to have a giant bounce. Like it would send people way up. It launches them. You can do stuff from that, right? Now, nah, not really. And it's not like you could do something cool like link into it or something if it hit, right? So that's not going to happen. So you just lost your giant launcher. Nagiha, which is the low, is now slower. It starts up later than it currently does in Season 1, so that's a nerf. But don't worry. His super does a few more points of damage, so that makes up for all the rest of the nerfs, right? There we go. Boom. You land at super, it's game over, baby! But yeah, so, Anji was debatably the worst character in the game, and they nerfed him. Don't ask me to, I don't have no answers for you. Now, let's talk Ino. So one of the big things here immediately is her air dashes. Already, you know, the queen of air dashes in this game. Now you can mess with the trajectory a little bit. So regular air dash, right? But now if I hold up, as you can see at the tailor end of the air dash, she kind of swings her way back up, right? So tricky gimmicks, I'm sure there'll be a lot of those, but that's interesting to be able to manipulate her trajectory in the air. Now it says you can also hold down. Now, honestly, I'm holding down right now. I don't know much of a difference here. Like, it feels basically the same one way or another. If it is, it must be pretty slight. Versus, it's much more pronounced if you hold up. So play around with that, I guess. But there you go. And other fun things like crouch punch is faster startup. That's good. Thanks to the fact, I know this is universal change, but thanks to the fact that crouch kick now has less knockback, that means, yo, this finally will stop whiffing at max range. It like will always work as far as I can tell. Crouch kick and the sweep. So if you put any amount of time into Ino, the fact this will always be reliable for you, I'm sure is a breath of fresh air. Like, it is very frustrating. I feel bad when I see that whiff on me. Like, I feel bad. Like, I'll still kill you, right? Like, because you whiffed, whatever. But I feel bad for the Ino player when that happens. And now, as far as I can tell, it'll never happen ever again. So that, even a universal change, that is a huge buff for Ino. Stuff like close S, less recovery, crouch S, got a better hitbox. Like, look at that. It hits from range. Like, that would not have connected before, right? So it is a much better poke. That's very, very good. Also, has reduced startup as well, so it comes out quicker. So, very good for crouch S. Her projectile antidepressant scale, now way more affected by trajectory. Like, you see how fast that goes up now? Much the same here. If you hold down, see how much quicker it goes down to the ground, right? So, whatever way you want to mess with it, like right there, you would never had that level of control before. Put it down that low and then like get it go up again. So whatever way you want to mess with it here, you have much more control of manipulating the projectile. That is very good. Also, it appears like almost immediately when you Roman cancel. You have to like wait a frame or two, right? But basically, you can play like Guilty Gear Xrd again, right? Like, you can now properly toss it out and then like go behind it or go in front of it or whatever you want to do. That is now an option available to you. That's very, very good. Chemical Love has more active frames, so it's out there for longer. So it makes it basically just a bit better as a screen control tool, as a projectile. That's good. Now, one thing that's a bit sad here. So the heavy version of Stroke the Big Tree is now no longer plus on block. Like, it's barely negative, but myself, the red Ino, I am jumping first when we both jump, right? I land first. So it might be like -1 or -2 on block or something. So that sucks because it did used to be positive on block. They are just a little bit closer to you when it connects, and the stagger duration states it's increased. So ideally, hopefully, you can get a few new combo routes out of it. And now the heavy slash version of Sultry Performance will always launch upwards now, regardless of the amount of hits you get. Before, it would only launch up if you got all 3 hits. Now, regardless of the amount of hits, it always launches up, and that's good. She did lose a bit with the one move not being plus on block anymore, but she also gained air mobility. The projectile's quite a bit better now. You can do a lot more with it. So, I know this might sting for some people, but otherwise, I think she's mostly changed for the better. So, Goldlewis, definitely doing good in this patch. We already spent a whole section talking about some of his stuff earlier with the Kara cancels in the Universal section. I think he benefits a bit more from Kara canceling dash into Behemoth Typhoon than the average character would. So, allegedly, 6P has a better hitbox. Like, oh, hallelujah, I can do what every other character in the game can do and, like, counter poke, right? Like, so that's decent, I guess. But like that's the bare minimum in my opinion. But now let's give you something a bit more substantial. Jump Dust, which is one of the better jumps in the game, straight up, right? It's just a little bit faster now. So in situations where like you try to instant air dash, before 9 times out of 10, like it would just barely miss. Like it wouldn't come out in time before you touch the ground. Now it does. And more consequentially to that, it is now a natural combo from Jump Kick. So you can just jump kick on their face and then hit Jump Dust, and guess what? Of course, naturally. That's a natural combo right there, right? So you can bully people from the air much better. Like, it's just going to work out to your benefit big time. That's great. This helps his aerial offense. Like, a lot of times you still want to do it because, like, it has the range, right? Versus Jump Kick doesn't. But in situations where you're directly on top of them, it basically gives them even less time to react and block, or for you, potentially, more time to counter hit them and go from there. Other things. Stand Slash now literally moves you forward. So this is how they buff the range. They didn't change the hitbox at all, right? It just literally moves you forward now. So, and it has more effective range. Like, it can hit from situations it couldn't hit from before, right? So that's good. Still has some wonky hitbox issues that's not addressed, but still, we'll take it. More range, more better. Now, speaking of more range, more better, oh my lord. So Stand Heavy Slash got like double the range. It would never remotely in a million years connect from this far. Like, I got a little video for you here, right? So this is what it looks like in the old patch, and, well, this is what it looks like in the new patch. So I can't pixel math that out, but it's effectively almost double range. And for a move that has a pretty decent-sized disjointed hitbox, this is very, very good. This is absolutely to his benefit. This helps his neutral. And speaking of helping his neutral, so Stand Slash is better, Stand Heavy Slash is better, Forward Heavy Slash. So the wording was a bit unclear in the patch. I mean, it was like, maybe it was going to be like a Kara cancel move or something. No. Like, they literally meant what they said. He swings himself forward while doing it now. Like, he literally just moves forward. And what this does effectively is it extends the range of the move by like a good solid 20%, 25% maybe. So now in situations where, like, neutral's always been his issue, right? So now Goldlewis, this is just your hammer now. Now Goldlewis just outranges everyone else in neutral. He can swing for the fences now. That's the buff. And if you happen to get a counter hit, then level 2 and above, it pretty easily combos into minigun. It actually combos immediately into level 1 minigun as well, but you have to be like literally frame perfect. So I wouldn't worry about that, but still. Gives you some extra sass to work with, right? So now he has 3 buttons that are all much better in neutral. Thunderbird. Now when it connects, is a true hard knockdown. You cannot tech roll it. Regardless of what version it is, even level 1 version. Before they rolled out and they would gain more distance from you, no longer. Also, in the corner now, it'll stay in the corner basically. And it'll get all of its hits. Before, not so much, right? Like, it would basically just be out of the screen. You might be lucky to get like a hit in, and now you'll get all the hits in, even if you are security level 3. Even a security level 3 here. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, explosion. So it is now probably the go-to tool for Oki, right? Now you can cast it here, and you'll always get all the hits, no matter what. That's great. And finally, burn it down. The big laser. He now basically recovers instantly from it. Like, a second the actual laser's gone, he recovers. So it is going to be much better for pressure now, just to toss out randomly, like, in the screen, because he can move a second he's done with it. He recovered fairly quick before, but now it's even much faster yet. So overall, change to the dust is a very big change for him, jump dust. And the fact that his general button suite is much better than it was before, that's great. The fact that he now outranges people, right, that used to outrange him, that's going to be interesting. That's going to be fun. Like, in and of itself, the hit's not worth much. But, you know, if you get the counter hit, then you can get Skyfish off, and then you'll get some respectable damage in, right? So, interesting times for Goldlewis. We'll see how it turns out, but the boy definitely is a lot better. So, Jacko got some really nice changes. One, at the start of a round, she now has full meter. That's good. There's no real reason it should have been that she had to build up before. Now she starts around with full meter. Other things like crouch punch is a frame faster. That's good. Now, other interesting things like the shield minions. Shield is better. How better? Well, let's look at this before and after. Before, okay. Kai bounces off. Sure, whatever. Now, well, Kai bounces off, but he also takes damage. And taking damage is much preferable to taking no damage. So the shield also is more active, like it'll catch more stuff now. It's great. Also, the minions when used as projectiles have much better priority. They will now beat things they used to lose to. And not only that, just crush and destroy them. So minions as a projectile, much better. Like even the minion toss, you don't even got to use the boot, right? Minions as projectiles, way, way better. They now beat everything. Her zoning ability is way better, as you can now immediately air dash or use a second jump after her jump D, her projectile, right? So her ability to just do stuff is going to be way better as well. Crouching HS just leaves you just a little bit closer. So like a lot of the old classic combos are just that much easier, right? So that's good, that's good. Because sometimes, like, if you were just a little bit off or the game wanted to be a little bit finicky about it, you wouldn't get your stuff. Now, for the most part, you always should. Basically, Jacko does the Jacko thing a lot better now. You cannot challenge her anymore. Like, her projectiles will always win. That is great. Stuff like the shield command being much more useful and, like, dealing damage to an enemy. That's great. Just more utility with Jump D now that you're allowed to have more air options after you shoot your projectile. That's great. The fact she can do everything at the start of the round because she has full meter now. That's great. Overall, Jacko, like, I don't think she's going to be no top tier or nothing, right? But she should definitely be doing better than she currently does. So, Happy Chaos, one of the big changes here in the patch notes says concentration. So I got a bit of a before and after for you here. So, it says at full screen, concentration will now be depleted faster. So, here's before the patch, here's now. And the closer you are to the enemy, the less your concentration will deplete. So here it is, and as you see, it lasts a decent amount. Other things though, like his gun lift, right, where he just pops you up, this is now plus on block. As you can see here, the white Happy Chaos jumps first, lands first. That means he has the advantage. So changing that move to plus on block is definitely a sizable buff. Other things like Steady Shot does a bit less damage, as you can see here. You're not exactly losing 30% of your health now, so that's good. However, once again, you know, the buffs, right? You can now shoot quicker out of the roll. So roll mix-ups are going to be a lot better. Also roll, not a wild amount, but it goes just a smidge further, I think. Now nerf and a needed nerf. Happy, when he gets hit, curse goes away. That's good. It should have been that way from the start. Stuff like Scapegoat takes more health now than it did before. So much more sizable, as you can see here. Also, now at lower health values, it says something's supposed to be different. And that thing that's different is, well, you only get the crouching model, I guess. And see here, it'll still work to a degree. Like, as you see, if they attack it immediately, it'll work. But otherwise, it barely lasts longer. So the thing is, before clone, you could abuse it infinitely if you had no health left, right? Now, it'll have a bit of a downside. So overall, honestly, like, yeah, he's got a bit of a nerf going on, but he also got some buffs. And I feel very safe in saying Happy Chaos will remain a threat in Guilty Gear Strive. So Baiken, one of the big things off the bat here, the S version of Kabari is now plus on block, as you can see. The Baiken who threw it is jumping first and landing first, so it's now full-on advantage on block. It is a bit slower now. I guess that's fair enough, right? Because plus frames are very valuable, but still, getting advantage, guaranteed advantage now on the on block is great. It's great. Other good things, stand S, crouch S are good pokes here. They're all just a little bit quicker. That's great. The follow-up to Heavy Slash Kabari now can cause a counter hit. That's great. Also a little bit of a bounce effect. Yozansen does more damage, so more damage just from the usual mix-ups there. She keeps just a little bit of momentum from her forward and kick whenever she goes into any special cancel. Not a lot, but it's there, right? So not tons of changes, but they're pretty much all positive changes. So that is good. So for Testament, first off here, just a lot of the normals are better. Stand kick recovers faster. So does crouch kick. Stand S here, the big old poke here, also is faster. It recovers quicker too. And also it just has a better hurt box. That's great. Forward Heavy Slash, the big King Kong hit. Now comes out a little bit faster as well, which is not a buff you would expect, but that's great. Stand Heavy Slash recovers quicker. Like basically a lot of the good normals and pokes you want to use, they're just better across the board. Now for Grave Reaper, big thing here, the Succubus lasts a decent amount longer, like 30-40% longer than it did before. That's great. So if you want to do your teleports, your crows, do not feel like you have to do it immediately. Well, you basically had to do it immediately before, right? So now you got a little bit of time to breathe, a little bit of time to set up. The Succubus is on the screen for a fair bit longer than it was before. Now, I know some people are worried about the Tiger Knee changes. So you see my inputs here. So how it works now is if you try Tiger Knee immediately, like you do your corsical forward motion for the fireball and then hit up forward, you will get the grounded version of the move. However, to defeat this, all you have to do is just delay the button press like a frame. Like honestly, it is still just as easy to do as it ever was. You just delay just a tiny bit. Like, so I'm assuming it like there's some input error thing they're trying to fix or something. I don't know, but if you want to do the Tiger Knee stuff, it's still the same as it ever was. Just delay your button press a tiny amount. Other things, like if you do have the Succubus up, when you do Crow, obviously it goes to the Succubus. However, if you hold the button, it'll just fly forward like it always normally would. So for whatever reason, that's more advantageous to you to have just the usual fly forward vertical, or rather horizontal version, then you can still have it. So now you get the best of both worlds, basically. Other Grave Reaper stuff, the Heavy Slash Grave Reaper on the ground, the hitbox towards a grounded foe is much better. So instead of the skull just passing by, it can actually hit standing people now at a decent distance. That's very good. Arbiter Sign has better recovery. However, do not confuse it for good recovery. It is still quite a bit of lag on it, even though it is better than it was before. So don't just feel like you can use and abuse it without any penalty, but still better than it was. And actually, just a lot of the Grave Reaper stuff, like there's a lot of hitbox stuff where it's just nominally all for the better. Expanded hitboxes on a lot of the projectiles, like the ground version, better hitbox. Air version has like less startup. So the air versions come out a decent amount quicker than they did before, so you can pressure with them better. All the Grave Reaper stuff is just better basically across the board. So not necessarily big wild changes for Testament, but a lot of good quality of life changes for Testament, and Testament definitely is doing a lot better. And that, my friends, is the visual guide to the patch. Once again, in the end, I think the universal changes are the single most important changes. Obviously, the character stuff matters a lot too, but I think those are the most important changes in the end, and that'll kind of set the game forward going forward. Now, if you don't know all the patch notes, I'll post a link to the patch notes in the video description. And yes, I didn't go over every single change. So for a lot of the smaller changes I didn't feel were worth it for the video, you can go check them out there. But yeah, so overall, I think this is a very strong patch. I think a lot of people either, they just got a lot of quality of life stuff. Maybe some people got nerfed a little bit harder than they should have been. But overall, I think this is a net positive for the game. So moving forward, let's go. Only complaint is they told me there'd be more colors in Season 2. I don't got more colors. These are the same colors we always had. So where are those more colors? I don't know. I want more colors. Give them to me, please. Other than that, though, drop a like if you could. This video takes a long time to make. And other than that, well, thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well. And go out and play some Guilty Gear.
Yeah.